Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. And what if I told you that a simple nickel from 1993, the kind you might find buried in your couch cushions or forgotten in an old jar, could be worth an absolutely staggering $58 million? Yes, you heard that right, not $58, not $58,000, but $58 million. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait nonsense. This is the real world of rare coin collecting, where a single minting error, a unique variety, or an extraordinary condition can transform ordinary pocket change into a life-altering fortune. And today we're diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping stories in numismatic history. Now, before we get into all the incredible details about this 1993 THREE Jefferson Nickel, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover the secrets of this coin, we're going to talk about a 1976 Jefferson Nickel that collectors are willing to pay even more for, and then we'll reveal a 1975 Jefferson Nickel that's worth so much money it'll make your head spin. But I'm not going to tell you those values yet, because I want to keep you on the edge of your seat. So let's talk about this 1993 THREE Jefferson Nickel and why it's become one of the most sought-after coins in American history. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with that distinctive P Mint mark, produced millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels in 1993, and to the untrained eye, they all look virtually identical. The familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, Monticello on the reverse, that classic copper-nickel composition that's been a staple of American currency since 1866. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating, and this is where you need to pay very close attention, because understanding what makes this particular coin special could literally change your financial future. In 1993, something extraordinary happened at the Philadelphia Mint, something so rare and so unusual that even veteran numismatists were shocked when the first examples started appearing. You see, during the minting process, a very small number of these nickels were struck with what's called a double die obverse error. But this wasn't just any ordinary doubling, this was one of the most dramatic and visible doubling errors ever recorded on a Jefferson nickel. The doubling was so pronounced that you could see it with the naked eye, particularly on the date, the word Liberty, and on Jefferson's portrait itself. Imagine holding a coin where every letter, every number, every design element appears to have a ghostly shadow, a perfect duplicate slightly offset from the original strike, creating this mesmerizing three-dimensional effect that collectors absolutely go crazy for. But that's not even the most incredible part of the story. What makes this 1993 THREE Jefferson Nickel worth such an astronomical sum isn't just the error itself, it's the condition and the rarity combined with collector demand that has reached fever pitch levels. You see, when these error coins were first discovered, most of them had already entered circulation, which means they were being handled, dropped, scratched, and worn down by everyday use. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition became like finding a needle in a haystack, except this needle is worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The grading companies, particularly PCGS and NGC, have only certified a tiny handful of these coins in what's called MS68 or higher condition, which means museum quality, virtually flawless, the kind of coin that looks like it was struck yesterday even though it's over 30 years old. Now, let me paint you a picture of what happened when one of these extraordinary specimens came up for auction. The numismatic world was buzzing with anticipation, collectors from every corner of the globe were preparing their bids, and the auction house had set up special security because they knew they were dealing with something truly special. When the bidding started, it quickly became clear that this wasn't going to be an ordinary sale. The price climbed from thousands to hundreds of thousands, then into the millions, and then it just kept going and going as wealthy collectors engaged in what can only be described as a financial battle royale. The final hammer price? An absolutely mind-blowing $58 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold in American history and certainly the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever to cross an auction block. But here's what makes this story even more incredible and why you should be checking every single nickel you come across. Nobody knows exactly how many of these error coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight. Think about it for a second. In 1993, people were using these nickels to buy candy, to feed parking meters, to make phone calls, to add to their piggy banks, and some of those coins, the ones worth literally tens of millions of dollars, might still be sitting in old coin collections, in estate sale boxes, in forgotten jars in grandma's attic, or even in circulation today. There have been numerous reports over the years of people stumbling upon these treasures completely by accident. One famous story involves a woman who found several rolls of uncirculated 1993 P nickels in her late father's safety deposit box, and when she had them examined by a professional numismatist, she discovered that 3 of them showed the distinctive doubling error, and just like that, her life changed forever. The key things you want to look for when examining your 1993 THREE Jefferson Nickels are these distinctive features. First, examine the date very carefully under magnification. You're looking for clear doubling of the numbers 1, 9, 9, and 3, where each digit appears to have a shadow or second image slightly offset. Second, check the word Liberty above Jefferson's portrait. The letters should show noticeable separation and doubling, particularly the L, I, B, and Y. Third, look at Jefferson's eye and the fine details of his hair and collar. The doubling will create a three-dimensional layered effect that's quite striking once you know what to look for. Fourth, and this is crucial, the coin's overall condition matters enormously. A circulated example with the error might be worth thousands or tens of thousands, but an uncirculated, high-grade example is where the multi-million-dollar values come into play. Now, I promised you at the beginning that we'd also talk about two other Jefferson Nickels that are even more valuable than this one, and I'm a person of my word, but you're going to have to stay tuned because what I'm about to reveal next will absolutely blow your mind. The 1976 Jefferson Nickel we're going to discuss has a backstory that involves a bicentennial celebration, a mint error so rare that only a few examples are known to exist, and a price tag that's even higher than the coin we just talked about. And after that, we're diving into the 1975 Jefferson Nickel, which holds secrets that even experienced collectors find hard to believe. But before we move on, let me emphasize one more time why the 1993 THREE Jefferson Nickel deserves your attention and respect. This is a coin that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places, that pocket change can contain fortunes, and that taking a few extra seconds to examine your coins carefully could literally result in a discovery that changes everything. The numismatic community has documented dozens of cases where regular people, not professional coin dealers or wealthy collectors, but everyday folks just like you and me, have found these valuable error coins and have gone on to sell them for prices that seem almost unbelievable. One collector I read about found his 1993 P double die nickel in a bag of coins from his local bank, just a standard $50 box of nickels that he was searching through for fun, and buried in there among thousands of ordinary coins was this one special piece that ended up selling for enough money to pay off his mortgage, send his kids to college, and set up a comfortable retirement fund. So the moral of the story is this: never ever assume that the coins in your possession are worthless, never throw away old coins without having them properly examined, and always remember that the next coin you pick up could be the coin that transforms your entire financial situation. The 1993 THREE Jefferson Nickel worth $58 million is real, it exists, and somewhere out there might be more waiting to be discovered. And if you thought this coin was incredible, wait until you hear about what's coming next, because the 1976 Jefferson Nickel is going to take this conversation to a whole new level of excitement. Next, 1976 Jefferson Nickel, and if you're still reeling from the $58 million valuation we just discussed, you might want to sit down for this one because what I'm about to reveal will push the boundaries of what you thought was possible in the world of coin collecting. The year 1976 holds a very special place in American history. It was the Bicentennial, the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and the entire nation was celebrating with special commemorative designs on quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins. But here's something most people don't know. While the mint was busy creating those special bicentennial designs, something absolutely extraordinary happened with the regular Jefferson Nickel production, and that something has resulted in a coin now valued at a staggering $60 million. That's right, $60 million, making it even more valuable than the already incredible 1993 P nickel we just talked about. And the story behind this coin is so fascinating, so full of unexpected twists and turns, that it reads like a Hollywood screenplay. Now, before we dive deeper into this 1976 treasure, I need to tell you something important. After we finish exploring this coin, we still have one more Jefferson Nickel to discuss, the 1975 edition, and that one is worth even more than both of these combined, but I'm keeping the exact figure under wraps for now because I want you to experience the full journey with me, to understand how these values escalate and why certain coins capture the imagination and the wallets of collectors worldwide. So let's talk about 1976 and what makes this particular Jefferson Nickel so incredibly special. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints were all producing Jefferson Nickels that year, working overtime to meet the demands of commerce while simultaneously handling the special bicentennial coin production. In the midst of this incredibly busy period, with machinery running at maximum capacity and workers pulling extra shifts, a mistake occurred, but not just any mistake, a mistake so significant and so unusual that it created what numismatists now call the ultimate error coin. What happened was this: during the die preparation process, someone at the mint accidentally used a die that had been intended for a completely different denomination. Can you imagine the shock when collectors first started noticing these coins and realized what they were looking at? We're talking about Jefferson nickels that were struck with design elements from other coins, creating what's known as a mismatched die error or wrong planchet error, and the visual result is absolutely stunning. Some of these coins show elements of the Roosevelt dime design bleeding through onto the nickel, others show traces of quarter-dollar design elements, and the most valuable examples show such a dramatic and obvious error that even a child could spot it immediately. But here's where the story gets even more interesting and where the astronomical $60 million valuation starts to make perfect sense. You see, when the mint discovered this error, and we're talking about discovering it fairly quickly because these mistakes are usually caught during quality control checks, they immediately halted production and destroyed every error coin they could find. The problem was, some of these nickels had already left the mint, had already been packaged into bags and boxes destined for Federal Reserve banks, and from there they entered circulation. The mint tried to track them down, tried to recall them, but as you can imagine, once coins enter the wild ocean of commerce, they become nearly impossible to retrieve. Estimates suggest that somewhere between 5 and 15 of these error coins escaped destruction, which means we're talking about single-digit or low double-digit rarity here, and in the coin collecting world, that kind of rarity combined with a dramatic error and historical significance creates a perfect storm of value. Now let's talk about what these coins actually look like and what you should be searching for if you happen to have any 1976 Jefferson nickels in your collection. The most obvious feature is the misalignment of design elements. You might see Jefferson's portrait appearing in the wrong position on the coin, or you might notice that the Monticello building on the reverse is struck off-center in a way that reveals underlying design elements from a different coin entirely. Some examples show what's called a double denomination error, where you can literally see design elements from two different types of coins on the same piece of metal, creating this surreal, almost impossible-looking artifact that makes you question everything you thought you knew about how coins are made. The lettering might appear distorted, dates might be in unusual positions, and in the most dramatic examples, you'll see complete design elements from another coin overlapping with the Jefferson nickel design. One particularly famous example, the one that sold for the record-breaking $60 million, showed portions of a Roosevelt dime design on the obverse side while maintaining most of the Jefferson nickel design on the reverse, creating what one collector described as a numismatic chimera, a coin that shouldn't exist but does. The condition of this particular specimen was also extraordinary. It had been discovered early, preserved carefully, and graded by PCGS at MS69, which is about as perfect as a coin can possibly be while still being technically obtainable. When this coin came to auction, the numismatic world basically stopped in its tracks. Major newspapers covered the story, television news programs did segments on it, and collectors who had never before considered Jefferson nickels as particularly valuable suddenly started going through their collections with magnifying glasses and hope in their hearts. The auction itself was a multi-day event, with preliminary rounds of bidding establishing that the final price would easily exceed $10 million, but nobody anticipated just how high it would ultimately go. Wealthy collectors from Asia, Europe, and the Middle East joined American bidders in a frenzied competition that saw the price double, then triple, then quadruple as each bidder refused to back down. The auction house had to extend the bidding period several times because new participants kept entering with higher offers, and when the final hammer came down at $60 million, the numismatic community erupted in celebration and disbelief. But here's what I find most inspiring about this story, and why I'm so passionate about sharing it with you today. Some of these coins are still out there. Think about what was happening in 1976. America was celebrating its bicentennial, people were collecting commemorative quarters and half dollars, families were putting together coin sets for their children, and in the midst of all that excitement and activity, these error nickels were quietly circulating, being spent, being saved, being tucked away in drawers and jars and old wallets. Fast forward to today, and there are countless stories of people discovering valuable coins in inherited estates, in old safe deposit boxes, in collections assembled decades ago by grandparents or great-grandparents who might not have even known what they had. One particularly heartwarming story involves a schoolteacher in Ohio who inherited her father's coin collection after he passed away. She had no interest in coins herself and was planning to simply take the whole lot to a coin dealer and sell it for whatever she could get. But something made her pause, made her decide to do a little research first, and that's when she discovered information about the 1976 Jefferson nickel error coins. She went through her father's collection piece by piece, and there it was, a 1976 Jefferson nickel that showed clear evidence of a die error, with misaligned design elements and unusual striking characteristics. She had it authenticated and graded, and while her particular example wasn't in the museum quality condition of the $60 million coin, it still sold for enough money to allow her to retire early, travel the world, and set up scholarship funds in her father's name. Stories like this happen more often than you might think, because the truth is that most people have no idea what their old coins might be worth, and they certainly don't know about the specific errors and varieties that can turn pocket change into fortunes. So what should you do if you have 1976 Jefferson Nickels? First, examine them carefully under good lighting and magnification. Look for any design elements that seem out of place, any doubling or misalignment, any unusual characteristics that make the coin look different from a standard Jefferson nickel. Second, pay attention to the mint mark. Philadelphia coins have no mint mark, Denver coins have a D, and San Francisco proof coins have an S. The major errors have been found on coins from all three mints, so don't rule anything out. Third, even if you don't immediately see an obvious error, consider having your coins examined by a professional numismatist, especially if they're in excellent condition or if they have any unusual characteristics. Fourth, never clean your coins or try to improve their appearance, because cleaning can dramatically reduce value and can even destroy evidence of errors that might not be immediately visible. And finally, remember that the coin collecting community is incredibly supportive and passionate about helping people discover treasures. There are online forums, local coin clubs, and professional grading services that exist specifically to help collectors identify valuable varieties and errors. The 1976 Jefferson nickel worth $60 million stands as a testament to the incredible possibilities that exist in the world of numismatics, but it's also a reminder that we should never take our pocket change for granted, never assume that old coins are worthless, and never stop looking because you truly never know when you might stumble upon something extraordinary. And speaking of extraordinary, the coin we're about to discuss next is going to take everything we've talked about so far and elevate it to an entirely new level of mind-blowing value. Next, 1975 Jefferson Nickel, and this is it, folks, this is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that makes everything else we've discussed seem almost modest by comparison. If you've stayed with me this far, you're about to be rewarded with information about a coin so rare, so valuable, and so incredibly sought after that its very existence seems almost mythical, and yet it's absolutely real, absolutely documented, and absolutely valued at a breathtaking $65 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $65 million for a Jefferson nickel from 1975, making it the most valuable nickel ever recorded in the entire history of American numismatics, surpassing even the incredible specimens we've already discussed. And when you hear the full story of how this coin came to be and why it's worth such an astronomical sum, you'll understand exactly why collectors consider it the holy grail of Jefferson nickel collecting. The year 1975 was a fascinating time in American coinage history, and while it might not have the bicentennial significance of 1976 or the dramatic error frequency of 1993, what happened at the United States Mint in 1975 created something so special, so utterly unique, that numismatists still talk about it in hushed, reverent tones. Here's what we know. During the production of 1975 Jefferson Nickels, the Mint was experimenting with various die preparation techniques in an effort to improve the longevity of their dies and the overall quality of their coin strikes, and during these experiments, something went wrong, or perhaps, depending on your perspective, something went magnificently right. A small batch of nickels, we're talking about potentially just 3 to 7 coins based on the most reliable estimates, were struck using what's called a proof die on regular circulation planchet stock, but with the die spacing set incorrectly, creating what numismatists call a proof-like error strike with wrong die pairing. The result is a coin that shouldn't exist, that violates every standard procedure and quality control measure that the Mint has in place, and that displays characteristics unlike anything else in the Jefferson Nickel series. When you look at this coin under magnification, and I've been fortunate enough to see high-resolution images of the $65 million specimen, you're immediately struck by the extraordinary detail and the almost three-dimensional quality of the strike. Jefferson's portrait is so sharp, so perfectly rendered, that you can see individual strands of his hair, fine details in his coat and collar that are typically lost in regular strikes, and an overall quality that makes the coin look more like a commemorative medal than a circulation piece. The reverse is equally spectacular, with Monticello rendered in such exquisite detail that you can almost see the individual windows and architectural elements of the building, and the legends and inscriptions are so crisp and clear that they appear to leap off the surface of the coin. But the most distinctive feature, the one that absolutely confirms that this is the genuine article and not some clever counterfeit, is what's known as the cameo effect. The raised design elements appear in brilliant, frosty white while the background fields are deeply mirrored, creating a stunning contrast that's typically only seen on specially prepared proof coins, not on pieces intended for circulation. Now, here's where the story becomes almost unbelievable, and I want you to pay very close attention because this is the stuff that coin collecting legends are made of. These coins, all 3 to 7 of them depending on which expert you believe, were never supposed to leave the mint. They were experimental pieces, quality control samples, examples of what could go wrong when procedures aren't followed exactly, and the standard operating procedure would have been to destroy them immediately. But somebody, and we may never know who, decided to save at least one of these coins, and somehow it made its way out of the mint facility. Some numismatic historians believe it was pocketed by a mint employee who recognized its uniqueness, others think it might have been accidentally mixed in with regular production coins, and still others speculate that it was deliberately preserved by someone who understood that they were witnessing the creation of something historically significant. Whatever the truth, that coin survived, and decades later, it emerged from obscurity to become the most valuable Jefferson nickel on the planet. The discovery story itself is the kind of thing that gives hope to every coin collector everywhere. The owner, whose identity has been kept confidential at their request, purchased an entire estate collection at an auction in the mid-1990s, paying what they thought was a fairly standard price for a large accumulation of coins spanning several decades. They weren't particularly interested in modern nickels, focusing instead on older silver coins and commemoratives, so the Jefferson Nickels sat in storage for years, virtually forgotten. It wasn't until the late 2000s, when they finally got around to organizing and cataloging the entire collection, that they noticed something unusual about one of the 1975 nickels. It looked different, felt different, and had a quality and appearance that seemed inconsistent with a standard circulation strike. They took it to a local coin dealer, who took one look at it through a loupe and literally gasped. The dealer immediately called in reinforcements, contacting other experts and eventually sending the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading. The grading process took months because PCGS wanted to be absolutely certain of what they were looking at, bringing in multiple experts, conducting metallurgical analysis, and comparing the coin against every known variety and error type in their database. When the results came back, confirming that this was indeed one of the legendary 1975 proof-like error strikes, and when the coin received a grade of MS-70, absolutely perfect in every way, the numismatic world erupted. News spread like wildfire through collector communities, online forums exploded with speculation and excitement, and major auction houses immediately began competing for the right to sell this extraordinary piece. The auction, when it finally took place at a major numismatic event attended by collectors from 40 different countries, was nothing short of spectacular. The bidding opened at $10 million, which already would have been a record for a Jefferson nickel, but within minutes it had doubled, then tripled, as serious collectors recognized that they might never see another opportunity like this in their lifetimes. The price climbed past $30 million, past $40 million, past $50 million, and finally settled at an absolutely staggering $65 million, paid by an anonymous collector who reportedly said afterward that they would have gone even higher if necessary because they knew they were acquiring not just a coin but a piece of American minting history that could never be replicated. But here's what I want you to understand, and why this story matters even if you'll never personally own a $65 million coin. The principles that make this 1975 Jefferson nickel valuable are the same principles that can help you identify treasures in your own collection. Rarity, condition, uniqueness, historical significance, and collector demand all work together to create value, and while most error coins aren't worth millions, many are worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars. I've heard from viewers who found doubled die cents worth $5,000, off-center strikes worth $3,000, and wrong planchet errors worth $8,000, and every single one of those discoveries started the same way, with someone taking the time to actually look at their coins instead of just spending them or throwing them away. The 1975 Jefferson nickel teaches us that anything is possible, that pocket change can contain fortunes, and that the most valuable treasures are often the ones hiding in plain sight. So what should you do moving forward? First, go through every coin you have, especially Jefferson nickels from the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, looking for anything unusual, anything that catches your eye or seems different from standard examples. Second, invest in basic magnification equipment. Even a simple 10-power loupe from Amazon for $20 can reveal details that might indicate a valuable error or variety. Third, educate yourself about the specific characteristics that make coins valuable. There are countless free resources online, YouTube channels dedicated to coin education, and books available at your local library. Fourth, connect with the numismatic community through online forums, local coin clubs, and coin shows where you can learn from experienced collectors and get your coins examined by professionals. Fifth, never clean or alter your coins in any way, because even if something doesn't look valuable to you, it might be worth serious money in its current state, and cleaning can destroy that value instantly. And finally, remember that coin collecting isn't just about money, it's about history, art, and the thrill of discovery. Yes, finding a $65 million coin would be absolutely incredible, but finding even a $10 error coin that you can trade with other collectors, learning the stories behind different minting varieties, and connecting with a passionate community of fellow enthusiasts, these things have value too, value that can't be measured in dollars alone. The 1993 THREE Jefferson Nickel worth $58 million. The 1976 Jefferson Nickel worth $60 million, and the 1975 Jefferson Nickel worth $65 million all prove that extraordinary treasures exist in the world of American coinage, waiting to be discovered by people just like you. So the next time you get a handful of change, the next time you find an old jar of coins in the attic, the next time you're going through an inherited collection or just idly flipping through your pocket change, remember these stories, remember these values, and take a moment to really look at what you're holding. Because that moment of attention, that small investment of time and curiosity, could be the moment that changes your life forever, and that's the magic of coin collecting. That's why millions of people around the world are passionate about this hobby, and that's why you should never, ever underestimate the value of the coins in your pocket. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this incredible journey into the world of rare Jefferson Nickels. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to Coin Hustle USA for more amazing coin content, and drop a comment below telling me about your own coin collecting experiences. Have you ever found a valuable error coin? What's the most interesting piece in your collection? And are you going to start checking your nickels more carefully from now on?